Months ago, I made the biggest decision of my life when I packed all of my bags and moved from California all the way to Norway. And it might not be for the reasons you expected. Let me explain. So I'm going to briefly talk about my life in California and how it was before I moved to Norway. So I lived in California for about 10 years of my life. So I went to school there. To be honest, it was a pretty good life for most of the part. Sunny weather, I had a lot of friends, I was doing things. Even though that was happening, I felt this disconnect from society. I felt like I was isolated. There wasn't many things to do because where I was from in California, there wasn't much you could do. You know, it's not like I could go out to bars or I could go out to clubs. And once you've gone shopping and eaten until you can't move anymore, you're pretty much out of things to do. Ultimately, you know, I was playing tennis because I love playing tennis. I've been playing for basically my whole life. So I was playing tennis. I was hanging out with my friends. But when I would get home from all these activities, I would just feel lost. You know, I'd feel like there's something missing in my life. Some of the downsides that happened in California were, you know, the prices were extremely expensive. Things were hard to afford. I mean, if you guys know, California is very expensive in terms of living, groceries, all the necessities. And, you know, I just felt, again, disconnected. I didn't feel fully content there. I felt like my life wasn't really going anywhere. All right, so now why Norway? Let me explain. So when I first met my now current fiance, this was back in California. She was a exchange student from Norway studying in California. I remember I met her 2 weeks before she was going to go back to Europe to continue her studies. Now this, you know, I met her. She had 2 weeks. We had 2 weeks to get to know each other. And I remember we continued the relationship online, long distance. And then now, fast forward to this summer, so a few months ago, I packed my bags and I decided it's time to go to Norway. I had enough of long distance. I said, you know what? I'm ready for a new change. It's time to change up my life, see what we can do. And I decided to pack my bags. Now, I was very, very nervous. You know, I'd never been to Norway in my life. I always knew about Norway. I always thought it was a cool country, but I'd never been there, so I couldn't really say that. And, you know, I remember people asking me like, oh, or telling me like, you might not like Norway. What happens if you don't like it? You're gonna have to go back. And then I remember I kept saying like, no, I'm gonna love Norway. I just know I'm gonna love it. Even though I'd never been there, something just felt like I was gonna love it. And I remember getting on that flight. I had to go to the UK first and then go to Norway because there's no direct flights from San Francisco to Norway, so you have to stop over. So I stopped over in the UK and I remember just being so nervous, you know, nervous to be in a new country, to be abroad for the first time, like alone fully. But I remember just getting off that plane in Norway and the first thing I noticed was that smell of fresh air. I would never smelled air that clean before. It just shocked me. The first thing, it was like, whoa. This air, I thought I was in some special area, but no, I happened to just be outside the airport. And I was like, how is this possible? And it was definitely really, really cool and fascinating. And then I just remember it being, this place being so different from California and from the US. I was like, everything just felt so beautiful. You know, the air, the nature, the people walking around, the architecture, the buildings. I was just in awe. And I just remember thinking like, I just remember falling in love day one. I fell in love with Norway day one. It was just such a beautiful country for me to see. And there were so many differences from California, which I'm going to talk about at the next point, but it was just so interesting for me to see. I just never seen, you know, I traveled to Europe, but I never really been like, this is where I'm going to live. You know, this is where I'm going to be in Norway. And it was just such a beautiful moment for me arriving and seeing how amazing this country is. I don't think a lot of people know how beautiful Norway is because it's not really talked about that much. You know, people talk about London, Paris, Rome, all the big major cities, but I think Norway is just such a beautiful and underrated country that a lot of people need to see. You know, it's a small country, only 5 million, I think around 5 million people, but I mean, this country is just beautiful. It's just so beautiful and it's hidden off the map because a lot of people, I mean, nobody talks about it, but I think it's one of the most beautiful countries in the world. I'm going off on a tangent, but the point is that I remember just coming here and just being fascinated with this country. It was just amazing for me to see. So now, since I talked about coming here and the differences, now I'm going to talk about the challenges, because let me tell you, there were a lot of challenges coming to Norway. And I think the first major one was obviously the language. You know, I don't speak Norwegian. I'm still learning, but obviously when I came here, I didn't speak it. But I remember just not understanding a word and not understanding any signs, and the currency kind of messed me up because the conversion was crazy. It's times 10. So let's say you have a US item, US dollar, let's say $5, that equals 50 Norwegian krone. So you just times it by 10, the US dollar times 10. So that was very confusing to me at first. I was like, wow, I'm buying groceries for 200 krone or 1,000 krone. I was like, whoa. And yeah, the price really threw me off, so I had to get used to that. It was very easy once I figured out that it's just times 10. And then the next thing, as I said, the language. I did not understand any signs. I did not understand what anyone was saying. I just, luckily my fiance speaks Norwegian, so I could get around pretty easily because of her. Now I'm obviously learning it, so det går bra. There's one of the words I learned, or hada. But yeah, those were two of the first challenges. I would say another challenge is dealing with the weather, because I haven't dealt with such fast changing extreme weather. California for the most part is literally sunny all year round. So you don't have any challenges, maybe some minimal rain. But here I had to deal with, rain to wind to rain to sun, and not seeing the sun for as long as I'm used to, which was definitely a challenge because I do love being in the sun and I think that the sun makes me really happy. But I still managed to deal with it and I managed to love it. Another challenge was adapting to the culture, because I hadn't tried any of the Norwegian foods obviously when I was in America, and then trying all these different foods was a big change for me. I mean, I loved every single food I tried. Ham and cheese paste, mackerel in tomato sauce, brown cheese, all these beautiful, amazing dishes, fish cakes. I hadn't tried these, but when I tried them, it took me some time to adjust to them, but it was so delicious. These items were so delicious. They were so delicious, and I just remember enjoying everything. And then I think that aside from the food, definitely another challenge was, adapting to the culture. So understanding that Norwegians don't talk a lot in public transportation, because I was used to people talking all the time everywhere in America. And then here in Norway, people were barely even talking on the bus. It felt like I was in a spa or on the train, and just being very introverted. I'm a big extrovert, so coming to an introverted country was definitely a big challenge for me. But I found my ways. I think, once you get to talk to Norwegians, they become very friendly and very open. I think just at first, they're not very open or extroverted. They're very introverted the first time you meet them. But so I think that was something that I had to get used to, and I did get used to, definitely. Another thing was how much nature there is in the walking, because in California where I was, there wasn't much nature around me, not like here in Norway where literally everywhere you walk there's nature. And I had to get used to walking a lot, because in the US people don't really walk that much, and in Europe that's all they do. The cities are literally built for walking. Like, I think Norway seems like it's built for walking, not as much driving, especially in like Oslo and the main cities. Definitely built for driving or for walking. So that was a big challenge for me, because I didn't walk a lot. I'd walk in my life, but I never walked this amount per day. So it was a healthy change, definitely, because walking makes you healthier. So I really liked that. Yeah, I think those were the biggest challenges for me. And I think I've adapted pretty well, to be honest. I would have expected to not really have adapted, but I think I just fell in love with this country so much that I just adapted easily. It's not like it wasn't a challenge for me. So now, how it changed me. It's changed me in so many unbelievable ways. It's changed me because I've adapted to a healthier mindset. I now get up, I walk, I breathe the fresh air, I get some sunlight. I think it's just changed me more than I could ever imagine, because now I'm doing so many more activities. I'm exploring so many more places. I'm having fun in the rain, in the wind, in the crazy conditions. I'm feeling healthier. I'm doing more things. I'm exploring more places. I'm in nature more. I'm walking slower. I'm doing things slower. I'm not rushing. I'm not stressed. I'm just doing life as it should be. And I think Norway has taught me that life is all about being with family. I always see Norwegians out all the time, just with their family at bars and cafes, just talking to each other on the weekday, on the weekday. I'd never seen that in my life. I'd never seen people talking all the time in the weekday, being so social, being out all the time, even when it's raining. In California, people were just inside all the time when it was raining. I never saw anyone out. And here it's like people were literally just they work because, obviously you have to make money to live. You can't just not work. You obviously have to make money, but they work, they get their money, they do what they need to do to live. And then the rest of the time they're with family, with friends, they're enjoying themselves, they're being loving, they're being kind. It's just amazing. It's taught me that life is not all about work. It's about enjoying nature, and it's about being with the people you love. That's honestly what it taught me. And it's taught me to appreciate life more, and value the time you have, because I think in California, you know, the societal norm around me was to pressure, and you have to work all the time, and it's bad to take breaks. And if you're not working all the time, what are you doing? Why aren't you working? But here, since I've come here, that's completely changed. And I think it leads to such a healthier life. You know, I see it in the people here in Norway. I see that they're so much healthier. They're so much more free. They're so much more relaxed. They're not as stressed. They're barely stressed. You know, they're just walking, enjoying themselves, laughing, talking. It's just beautiful to see. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life is how this society here works. Because where else in the world, I mean, yes, obviously Europe as a whole is a beautiful place and beautiful continent with so many beautiful countries and beautiful languages. But I think Norway is just top of the list for me. And another thing I want to discuss is why I don't regret it. You know, when I was in California, yes, I had a great life. Yes, I had all these things around me. But I just realized in my head that like life is so much more. I was recently on Instagram scrolling and I saw this reel of somebody in Antarctica. And I just remember feeling that exact thing in California. It's like there are so many beautiful places around this world. And I want to live a fulfilling life where I go out there and I travel and I meet people and I explore this beautiful world. And I think that influenced me to move because it's like I have one life. I'm young. I might as well go out there and enjoy everything this world has to offer. Because there are literally so many beautiful places in this world. And Norway is one of them. But there's so many other. This world has infinite beauty. And all this natural, beautiful wilderness and forests and countries. It just inspired me so much to get out there and travel the world. You know, so I think I'm never going to regret it. I think it was one of the best decisions. It was the best decision of my life. Definitely, for a multitude of reasons. But one of them was because I want to go out there and explore the world and document it for you guys and talk to you guys and tell you guys about my life in Norway because we all connect. So that's why I don't regret it. Definitely. So yes, it was the biggest decision of my life, but it changed me in ways that I never imagined. And I don't think I'm ever gonna go back to my old life. I think I'm gonna continue this beautiful new life in this beautiful country where I feel so appreciative and everyone seems to be so happy and respectful and amazing. Let me know in the comments, guys, would you leave your old life to start a new life? Or what country would you love to go to start a new life if you could, or if you are going to? Hopefully it's Norway. If you're watching, you're not from Norway, I encourage you 1,000,000% to come to Norway. It's a beautiful country. You will not regret it. It's a little bit expensive, but hey, it's definitely worth it. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys stayed to the end, you guys are real ones. I love every single one of you guys. Make sure you go down there, leave me a comment, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button because we're going to be doing many more videos coming your way about Norway and about my life. This has been a fantastic video. I hope you guys enjoy as much as I enjoyed filming it. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys have the best night or the best day or the best morning. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.